Hey there everyone, it's Chad from Colorado Giants. Today is, what are we in, March the 9th. Charlotte's taking a nap, so I'm taking the opportunity to utilize the beautiful day that we have today to get a little bit of stuff done in the greenhouse before she wakes up. Unfortunately, she's a little sick, so got to stay home from work, but you know, make lemonade out of lemons, they say. And let me explain to you what we got going on. So as we jump into this here video, make sure you subscribe to the channel, comment below if you have any questions, go to our website, coloradogiants.com, and get yourself some seeds or some merch if you want. Got shirts and blankets and whatever stuff they have on the in-demand printing site that I could slap on there. But basically, it's time to get ready. I'm gonna flip the camera around and let's talk. So the greenhouse is basically ready for me to prepare for pumpkin season. I sent off my soil sample. I'll do a video on that. I do have the results back, and thankfully I really don't need to do a whole lot. I have just a little bit of cleaning up to do. I have to put, my fertilizers over there on the fertilizer shelf and just do a very small amount of just general cleanup right there, but it's basically ready for tilling. The kids helped me throw down, as well as the wife, helped me throw down the beet pulp pellets, and then I did some watering. So all this kind of fluffy stuff that you see on the soil, that's the dissolved beet pulp pellets. And then over on this side where I didn't water, it's still in the pelleted form. So we're gonna till that all in today. The only thing that I'm going to add to my soil, because I don't need to do a whole heck of a lot, is a bunch of perlite as well as more water crystals to make this much more like potting soil. I don't need to put down any nitrogen. I do need to put down some iron. I think I have some triple iron in my shed here, so I'll probably throw some of that down. But other than that, really, that's all that I got to do today to get the soil ready. The soil is sprouting lots of weeds because it has been starting to get nicer. The goal to start the seeds is April 10th, and then maybe 5 or 6 days after that, I really want to try to get them in here. So, today's the 9th, so we'll just say we got maybe 35 days to get everything ready, which is plenty of time. Other than the soil, I have to redo the supports for my wet wall there. I have fresh swamp cooler pads, so I'm going to take that out, redo the framing on the bottom so that I don't get any leaks, redo that whole situation there, put some fresh pads in, and then because I'm doing 2 plants this year, I'll have to redo my header from my irrigation, because typically, they come out this way and then I run the drip lines that way. This year, since the plants are going this way and that way, I'm gonna have to run the irrigation lines kind of like how the bows of the greenhouse are. So I'll have to do a little reworking of that. That won't take me long at all. But enough talking, let's just jump right into it. We'll throw this camera on time-lapse mode and see you in a couple. And just like that, I have all of my water crystals as well as my perlite spread out. And then I realized that I didn't really tell you, what I'm laying down and why. So the beet pulp pellet right there, that's to add sugars and a hair of organic matter into my soil. My organic matter is kind of high, so I don't need to add a lot of organic matter into my soil. This is mainly for the sugars. The sugars in the beet pulp pellet add food for the worms, as well as all the beneficial microbes in the dirt. There is other ways to get sugars in there. You could probably water down molasses, but I think of this as like slow release sugar, so that's why I throw down a few 100 pounds of that. The other thing, see if you can see it, is these water crystals. Think of water crystals as Jello. So I'm adding Jello crystals into the pumpkin patch. What that does is it helps retain the moisture inside of the soil. Because Colorado, we run maybe, 20-ish% humidity, extremely low. My soil tends to dry out very fast. The greenhouse is good for a little bit of humidity retention, but you also have to think of a greenhouse as basically like a magnifying glass. And in the magnifying glass, you're the ant or the army man underneath the magnifying glass. So that's why it's, 40 something degrees outside, but it's sunny and it's probably, 80 to 90 in here. So even though we have a plastic tarp over the entire pumpkin patch, humidity still is a little bit of a problem. Dry soil is still a little bit of a problem. So adding that water crystal, that water polymer into the soil just helps retain that moisture in there. And then the last thing is the perlite chunks. This is number 4 perlite. In the past, I've used persilite, which is like a pea-sized perlite. That breaks down really fast. These little pieces, you can just squish them. So my logic is I'll start with a bigger chunk, and then as the years go on, that bigger chunk will get a smaller chunk and it'll stay chunkier. The purpose of the perlite is to keep my soil from binding together. I have lots of clay out here. So, as the season goes on, everything gets really tacky. I water it every day. That's why I don't walk on my soil. So adding the perlite really helps interrupt that clay, so I just don't get a sticky, goopy mess in here. And instead we have nice, light and fluffy soil. The only thing that I need to do before I lay down my, or I rototill, is I'm adding some sulfur for my pH. My pH was kind of high. It was a 7.2. That's not the end of the world. You should be shooting for 6.5-ish, 6.2 to 6.7, 6.5-ish. We'll call it the middle ground. That's what you want your ideal soil to be. Sulfur is what's going to lower your pH, but it's a slow process. So I'm going to add 10 pounds of sulfur, and that will probably not move the needle hardly anything this year. As it breaks down, maybe next year we'll see the results of that. And on my soil test, I was low in iron, so I've got 5 pounds of triple superphosphate that I'm going to lay down as well and just spread it out over the entire patch. I'm probably going to use about 10 pounds of this. The good thing about ordering stuff over the years is you start to have a little extra. So I didn't have to order any of this. It was in my shed. So that's it. I'm going to throw these things down, roll up my hose, get rid of the trash a little bit, and then I'll throw it back on time lapse. We'll do the rototill, and we'll call it good. Unfortunately, Max and Charlotte are losing their dump truck track that was over there, but I think they'll forgive me. We have a whole lot of greenhouse that they can play in. I'm not scared about letting my children play in the greenhouse, even after it's been tilled, because kids are more important than pumpkins. And then on that note, tillage. There is such a thing as too much tilling. There's a tremendous amount of worms in the greenhouse this year. When I was moving the bags, Max had handfuls of worms, like literal handfuls of worms. Maybe I'll cut that in right here. Tell us about what you have there, Maxwell.
I have a lot of worms
Show them to us, point.
We have a lot of worms in here on my hand, but they growed in the ground here.
Yeah.
Like right there. And
Yeah.
when we lifted up all the bags,
Yeah.
there's some everywhere.
Well, that's good. We gotta go put them back. Oh, Judd didn't like the worm. So I don't want to over-till. You get to the point where you're tilling and that's good. You don't want to just go back through and till the same dirt 3 or 4 times. All you're doing is chopping up your worms and really kind of over-disturbing your soil. You could make the argument that you're tilling it, so it doesn't really matter. It is what it is. But in my mind, I'm trying to preserve the worms. I'm mixing up all of my goodies. I'm gonna let it leave or let it lay there. I'm trying to kill the weeds that are started, get a fresh crop of weeds that have started. I might till one more time in like, you know, maybe 2 months or so before I put down my water lines. But really, minimal tilling in my mind for the most part is better. You just want to leave your soil structure alone. You want to get your good stuff in there that you want to rock and roll with for the year, and then try and leave it alone as much as possible. I do want to invest in a broad fork this year so I can kind of rock and loosen up my soil without tilling it. That's, you know, in a few months I'll worry about that, but enough talk, let's get to work. Here is my my rototiller. I get a handful of questions about this every year. You know, it is a rototiller, but more so it's a two-wheel drive tractor. This is a BCS 853. So it has a Honda engine with a PTO, just like on the John Deere tractor or whatever tractor you might have. I have the ability to take off this tiller attachment and put on any menagerie of whatever implement. BCS and other manufacturers, earthtools.com, carry and manufacture just about any attachment you could want, from like you know, laying down plastic mulch to potato forks, hiller, you know, etc., etc. They make an attachment for it. But one thing that a lot of you younger people perhaps don't do or need to do a better job of is just your preventative maintenance on these guys. Every springtime I change the air filter, and in the fall I do a fuel treatment. And as I was doing this, I wasn't going to film it, but I thought it'd be pretty interesting to see, just because of the importance of it. So you take your fuel filter or your air filter cover off, and here's the old one. As you can see, quite gross, really. Full of dirt. You know, that is how your engine breathes. And here is our new one. And if that isn't a night and day difference, I don't know what is. So this one literally has dirt falling off of it. Brand new. The engine will be able to breathe about 1,000,000 times better with this fresh air filter on here. And changing your air filters on just about anything is super simple. So when you go get your oil change, you young whippersnappers, and they say, do you want to change the air filter? Just go down to AutoZone and get yourself an oil filter or an air filter and do it yourself, because a car air filter is just as easy, and save yourself some dollar bucks, some dollary doos. And that 5-minute process there, not even, that 3-minute process, will preserve your engine and keep it running forever. It's a Honda. It'll run until, shoot, I have a 1983 four-wheeler Big Red that I rode on when I was this big, and it's in there and it works fine because stuff like that was done. So make sure you do that. Now let's go to till. Whew-wee. All right, so there we go. The patch is tilled. Yeah, I'm thirsty. I'm gonna go get some water. But you'll notice I did 2 laps. So, you know, because the tiller obviously has 2 wheels and it leaves a path, I'll till like right here, and then I'll till right here. And then on that second path, I come back and I till in that middle area. So, you know, it looks like I till twice, but I'm really just kind of getting the entirety of it tilled, not twice so much. You know, maybe it's like 1 1/3 times that I till it, because there is some overlap there. But it, you know, I found that's the best way to do it. Unfortunately, I did see, you know, as the dirt gets kicked up and it's nice and flat back there, I did see a lot of worms. So I chopped up a lot of worms. I know that they can stay alive if they've been chopped in half. It just depends where you chop them. So hopefully everybody got chopped in a place that's advantageous for for staying alive, and now we have 2 worms, or however that works, I don't know. But that's it for this one. So we got everything down. Now we're not going to do anything to the soil until it's closer to planting time. We'll put down some more amendments, like worm castings. We got to do a disease treatment out here, but that's things, you know, that are down the road, not really right now. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. Again, if you have comments or if you have questions, comment below. I'm happy to answer them. Subscribe to the channel, go to our website, all that good stuff. See you next time.